Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago. Good afternoon, members of the media, the viewing and listening public. My name is Willetta Wilson, Secretary of the Trinidad and Tobago Scrap Iron Dealers Association. Welcome to this media conference where we discuss in our response to the government's 6-month shutdown of the scrap iron industry. Thank you all for being here today. Today we have our president. Next to me, Mr. Alan Ferguson. Next to him is our Vice President, Mr. Iris Sichatan. Next is Mr. Kenny Plaza, former Secretary of the Trinidad and Tobago Scrap Iron Dealers Association, followed by Mr. David Abdullah, leader of the MSJ, and Mr. Timothy Bailey, President of the Steelworkers Union. So a little bit of history. Some of you may remember the days of the ArcelorMittal steel plant. Occasionally, in those days, the rates weren't always so favorable to scrap iron dealers. So in 1991, dealers got together and formed what is now TTSIDA. So it's only fitting that, seeing that the scrap iron industry was formed out of the steel industry, today we have with us President of the Steelworkers Union, Mr. Timothy Bailey. He will speak with you firstly. Mr. Bailey.
Good afternoon, all. Good afternoon, members of the media. Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago. And good afternoon to my fellow comrades at the head table. As indicated before by my sister there, I am Timothy Bailey, President of the Steelworkers Union of Trinidad and Tobago. And my purpose here this afternoon is to bring solidarity and to bring support to the Scrap Iron Dealers Association in their time of need. As it is well documented, has carried in the news, earlier this week the government took a decision to basically shut down the scrap industry in Trinidad and Tobago for 6 months. And coming off of the heels of the closure of ArcelorMittal, which the scrap dealers in Trinidad and Tobago was a segment of, in 2016, where the steel industry more or less from that perspective was closed, the only segment of that industry that survived would have been the scrap industry. The scrap industry was able to maneuver, and the dealers in the industry were able to target international markets. And we are grateful as the Steelworkers Union of Trinidad and Tobago that some of our members, former members, would have been absorbed in this industry. Some of our friends would have been absorbed in this industry as a result of the industry going fully international. What we are seeing here today is a straight-up attack on the common man. The scrap industry is an industry that is run and is run by the ordinary man in Trinidad and Tobago. It's an industry where citizens who are incarcerated are able to come out and be reformed, be rehabilitated. The closure of the scrap industry for 6 months is indirectly an hijacking of the scrap industry in Trinidad and Tobago. We are very clear about that. And the Attorney General, it was not shocking to us that he would have been the person behind this. After all, if you all could remember, in 2016, with the closure of ArcelorMittal, the now Attorney General would have been the attorney that advised the company specifically on what to do to close the industry without paying any citizens in this beloved country. Now, as the Attorney General of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and not an attorney as before, the Attorney General is sitting in the position of power and is now closing the scrap industry for 6 months. Now, the question must be asked. When you close this industry and stop export for 6 months, how are the scrap dealers in Trinidad and Tobago going to pay their staff? How are they going to pay their bills? How are they going to honor their contractual obligations? We are saying, as the Steelworkers Union of Trinidad and Tobago, that under no circumstances should any right-thinking citizen in Trinidad and Tobago stand by and allow the government to mistreat a part of our population. And a point I want to make very specifically, I understand the anger and the disgust as relates to a small minority of individuals who are trying to spoil this industry, whether it be the cooperatives, whether it be the individuals who are cutting cables. I myself, knowing what is the current situation, would have come out from my driveway recently and a cable was hanging and it hit my windscreen and I was angry. But does that mean, as a result of my anger, that thousands of citizens in Trinidad and Tobago should be deprived of their livelihoods? And the answer to that is definitely no. I saw that the Minister of National Security would have indicated that since 2019, there were 200 reports of theft of scrap or cables. And I am saying 200 reports does not translate into 200 charges. And the issue that should be really addressed is when a minority of crooked citizens took it upon themselves to basically go and steal scrap, whether it be copper, whether it be cables, etc., what action did the Minister of National Security take? What task force was put in place to stop these thefts? Now, because the population has been affected, and I am saying it blatantly, it is clear that it was allowed to escalate to this point because the industry and the intention of the powers that be is to hijack this industry. The fact is, let's put it bluntly and straightly, this industry as is captured by statistics. Look at the international market. The industry is projected to roll over to $670 billion globally in 2027. It was $411 billion last year, and it was $600 million. It's projected to be $670 million in 2027. Now the question must be, at the end of the day, with the closure of Petrotrid, and we know that there was a RFP put out for the scrapping, for the taking up of scrap in Petrotrin to be sold. And we know that the Scrap Dealers Association in Trinidad and Tobago have been petitioning for that job. We know there are a lot of shipwreck ships that exist, that the Scrap Dealers Association had developed an extensive plan to recover. And we are aware that right in our beloved country, in Trinidad and Tobago, there exists millions of tons of scrap. So the question is it that this 6 months closure of the scrap industry is 6 months to sabotage the current and existing scrap dealers in Trinidad and Tobago, who by chance are ordinary men and women who run this industry? Is it a ploy? Simply put it, is it reasonable for the government to close the scrap industry for 6 months as a result of a few, not the majority, a minority of individuals in this industry doing illegal things and stealing? Is it reasonable? And if your answer to that question is yes, then I will say to you, with all the tests that has been taking place from 2019 to now of cars on the road, then we could look forward to the government of Trinidad and Tobago closing used car places that sell used parts. We can look forward to that. Or we can also look forward to the government of Trinidad and Tobago closing quarries because there are a lot of illegal quarrying taking place and affecting various communities in Trinidad and Tobago. This cannot be the answer. And I am very, very disappointed as a leader of our organization that a cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago sat down with all these thinkers, which I do not believe, and took a decision to close a scrap industry that employs thousands of citizens in this country for 6 months and did not have an alternative. If you are saying at the end of the day that you want to stop this issue, then get to the core issue. And the core issue may just be that in the process of sorting the scrap, individuals must give account for things that are being stolen right now, which is copper, which is cables, etc. You cannot say that it is reasonable at this time to close the scrap industry in Trinidad and Tobago, putting thousands of citizens on the breadline, and that is the only alternative, and you are going to bring legislation. The Steelworkers Union of Trinidad and Tobago and its members have been waiting for legislation since 2016. So we have no confidence that you are bringing any legislation in 6 months. And we are informed that there exists the relevant legislation. What is lacking is enforcement. The police, and I am a law-abiding citizen, the Minister of National Security, they need to do their job and stop looking for individuals to blame. Yes, there are criminal elements in the scrap industry, but that is not the majority. The majority of the individuals who work in the scrap industry and run the scrap industry are people who at the end of the day are making an honest dollar. So let us as responsible leaders, as a cabinet, review this decision. This decision is a hasty decision. It is a harsh decision. Anybody who sits down and analyzes this situation, there are a lot of questions to be asked. When the theft of escalated to the point where ordinary citizens were frustrated, and you are now using the frustration of the citizens of this beloved country to justify a nonsensical decision. We are saying as the Steelworkers Union of Trinidad and Tobago that this cannot be condoned, this cannot be supported, and the cabinet and government of Trinidad and Tobago must revisit its decision. And we are here to support the Scrap Iron Dealers Association and its members in whatever decision legally taken between the ambits of this law to reverse this decision. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that my statement was clear and concise. The Steelworkers Union of Trinidad and Tobago and its members oppose the 6 months closure, which potentially may end up bankrupting the current scrap dealers, end up closing the businesses of the current scrap dealers, and end up with more citizens on the breadline in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Our next speaker has been an advocate of TTSIDA for many years, Mr. David Abdullah, leader of the MSJ.
Thank you very much, Sister Willetta Wilson, Secretary of the Trinidad and Tobago Scrap Iron Dealers Association, Brother Alan Ferguson, President, Vice President, Mr. Kenny Plaza, Brother Timothy Bailey, members of the media, other members of SIDA, a very good afternoon, and to all who are joining us on the live stream. Once again, I am here in solidarity and in support of the Trinidad and Tobago Scrap Iron Dealers Association and all of its members and all of those who work in this industry. This industry is a very important and valuable industry to Trinidad and Tobago, the country, and to its citizens in very many ways. It earns foreign exchange, and one of the things that we are always complaining about as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago is that there is a shortage of foreign exchange in the country. Well, this industry is one of those that can be said has developed as a diversified aspect of our economy, being able to turn what some people believe to be of no value, namely scrap, into something of tremendous value. And Brother Timothy just gave some of the data with respect to the global industry. But for us here in Trinidad and Tobago, when containers leave this country to go abroad to steel mills and so on outside of Trinidad and Tobago, we earn foreign exchange. And therefore, to shut down this industry, whether it is for a week or 6 months, is to stop the earning of foreign exchange for Trinidad and Tobago, which has to be an economic crime as a decision by this government. Secondly, in terms of the importance, is that of employment, so that hundreds of people, thousands of people who would not have been able to get jobs elsewhere, given the state of the economy and so on, are able to earn an honest dollar when the day comes by working in this industry, as the vans pass around with the famous call for people to come out and sell their old iron and batteries and so on. So it creates employment, and that is very, very important. But not only does it create employment, that employment has what is known in economic terms as a multiplier effect. Because when people in communities have money in their pocket, they can then go to the parlor. So the owner of the parlor in the community gets a sale. The person who is a taxi driver will be able to get $1 because the taxi driver has to transport a family member of the worker in the industry. And we have, of course, school starting very shortly, and therefore bookstores will sell books to the persons who work in the industry who are getting $1 and therefore have to buy books. And so the grocery and so many other aspects of small businesses and medium-sized businesses and self-employed people benefit when persons are gainfully employed, earning a decent dollar in this industry. When you shut that down, you are going to create not only pressure for those who lose their jobs directly, but you're going to create pressure, Mr. Government, on all of those who would have benefited from the money that persons working for would no longer now be able to have in their pocket and therefore will not be spending. So there is going to be a negative effect, not just on those in the industry, but on people in the community and others who would depend on those in the industry to purchase goods and services from them. Those involved in transportation, whether it is the larger truckers who have to haul containers, those involved in the shipping industry, there'll be a decline in containers going out, and I'm sure that colleagues in TTSIDA can tell you exactly how many containers normally leave Trinidad and Tobago on our various ports, Port of Spain, Point Lisas, and so on. So truckers, the shipping agencies, a whole range of businesses in this country are going to be negatively affected by this decision. And we are sure that those who made the decision had not a clue about what they were doing and the implications of their decision in terms of impacting negatively on the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. That's the first point I want to make. Second point I want to make is that the decision to shut down the industry is totally unjust. It is wrong and it is unjust. I say so without fear of contradiction. In fact, what is happening is that people are going to lose their work, lose their job, because those who were supposed to do their job did not do their job. So you have people losing their work because other people did not do their work. In other words, this government is punishing people punishing van men, the workers who work with the van men, those who work in the scrapyards, the owners of the scrapyards and so on. The government is punishing all of these people because it, as a government, has failed to do its job. It has failed to do its job. And I'm going to give you 2 or 3 specific examples. The legislation under which the industry operates is very old legislation. And the Trinidad and Tobago Scrap Iron Dealers Association, for the last 20 years, has been attempting to have, or at least 12 years, I should say, since what, 2011. So 11 years, has been attempting to have the law and regulations updated. Successive governments have failed, but of those 11 years, the Rowley P&M government has been in charge for 7 of those years. So for 7 years, the government did absolutely nothing to update the law and the regulations with respect to this industry, which had been growing during that time. So as a result of it failing to do its work, they are now coming and attempting, and shutting down the industry. So they have been failing to act in a timely way. And then TTSIDA has, of course, made countless recommendations to amend the legislation and work with the government on policy documents. And the government has sat on their hands and sat on these documents, and rather than implement them, have come to shut down the industry, which is why I'm saying that the government failed to do what it was supposed to do, and as a result of its failure is now punishing other people. That is wrong and it is unjust. We all know about the call made by TTSIDA and its president, Brother Alan Ferguson, several months ago for the government to stop the export of copper. I myself supported that call on many occasions and called on the government to stop the export of copper. Had that been done 2-3 months ago, then we would not be in the situation where we are in now. So again, the government failed to heed the advice and the call of the Trinidad and Tobago Scrap Iron Dealers Association and other organizations, myself included, failed to heed the calls that we were making. And as a result of your failure, government, you are now seeking to punish the whole industry. That has to be wrong. That has to be unjust. And other agencies, TSTT being one, the Ministry of Trade, Customs, the police, all of these agencies fell down on what was their responsibility. And as a result of them falling down, in spite of advice being offered, in spite of offers of assistance to these agencies by the Scrap Iron Dealers Association to work with them to address the problem, particularly of copper stealing, then they failed. These agencies failed to act, and instead of them doing what they were supposed to do, others are now being punished. I want to say that people are in great pain and suffering in this country. Before this decision, people were in pain and suffering. Food prices are going up every Monday morning. Fuel prices went up in April. Transport prices have gone up. So people have been in pain. A lot of people are unemployed. Coming out of COVID, some people never got back their jobs. Other people just have begun to catch themselves after the COVID lockdown ended earlier this year. So people are in pain. Tens of thousands of people in this country are in pain. And on top of that, this decision to shut down the industry is going to create even more distress and pain for ordinary people in Trinidad and Tobago. And this government just doesn't seem to care about what happens to poor people, what happens to ordinary people, what happens to workers in this country. Just doesn't care. So food prices go up, the government does nothing about it. Instead of taxing the multinational oil companies and using that money to offset the increase in the price of oil so that the fuel price could remain the same, They don't do that, they push up the price of fuel. They just do not care, just don't care. And when we have a system of governance where government does not listen to the recommendations of organizations, of civic organizations, as the government failed to listen and heed the recommendations of the Scrap Iron Dealers Association. So you ignore all the recommendations, all the efforts, all the appeals to work with you. You ignore all of that. Then what you're really doing is pushing people's back against the wall. And when you push people's back against the wall, they're going to have to come out fighting for survival. And that's why you have these protests all over the place that have started to take place. Because people have no other choice but to do something to get attention, because when organizations meet and make recommendations and send letters, you ignore all of those recommendations. So what do you want people to do? What do you want people to do? You can't come down, government, when you yourself have failed to do what you're supposed to do. And this seems to be a pattern, a policy pattern of this government. Shut down Petrotrin, send home all the workers. Shut down the scrap iron industry. Almost decimate TSCT by sending home all the workers. We don't know what's going to happen with WASA and other workplaces. This seems to be a pattern to attack all of those areas where ordinary people were able to get some kind of decent income and make a life for themselves. Shut it all down. Who is going to benefit? The tiny elite of the wealthy in Trinidad and Tobago. And that is wrong, and it is unjust, and we have to stop the government from going down this terrible path and pursuing this horrific agenda for Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Abdullah. Now we'd like to invite our Vice President, Mr. Eric.
First of all, I'd like to say to our fellow scrap dealers, collectors, and everybody who's out there who concerns the industry, stay strong and stand firm. I'm not going to stay very long. I'm just going to make two observations. And all other industries that were shut down, provisions were made for all concerned, all the stakeholders in these industries. However, looking at the videos of the protesters yesterday in Clarkson Bay, what I saw was heartbreaking. I saw young people who knows nothing else but scrap, who grew up doing scrap, and now they are left out there on their own. When we as a society fail to protect our weak and vulnerable and allow them to become victims because of the acts of a few greedy and selfish people, then we have failed as a country, and we should be ashamed. Secondly, had the government and the authorities heeded our advice and executed the proper checks and balances, we would not be in this situation. And at this point, I need all you to remember what I'm saying. The government, they themselves, in the very near future, is going to prove what I am saying right now to be true. So I'm not going to say anything else. I'm going to leave everything else for the other two speakers. And thanks again for allowing me this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Sijatan. We'd now like to invite our President, Mr. Alan Ferguson, to address you.
Good day to Trinidad and Tobago. I want to thank the media for showing up here today. I want to thank all who is watching and listening. I want to thank the technical people who have us speaking to you all today. I want to especially thank the president of the Steel Union for coming and giving us this big support. I want to also thank David Abdullah, because I want to tell you all, I is a very close friend to David, and I want to make it very clear. It has nothing to do with politics. It just has to do with a good friend in need when you need support. And David has been following us for years. And I really appreciate him as a friend, because I have friends in all different political parties, in the UNC and the PNM. So I don't want you outside there watching it and think it have anything to do with politics. It have nothing to do with it, because I know Trinidadians. I know them. It's here I live and it's here I born. So I just want you to know David is a very close friend of mine. What I would like you to do, if you're at home and you're listening and you're watching, make sure your seatbelt is buckled, because I don't want you falling off your seats, and I don't want you to leave when you hear the truth, because sometimes the truth just make you get vexed. The truth just make you want to pelt a stone and all to hit the person because of the truth speaking. I will not stay long today, because I need to go. When this news conference finish, we will leave to go to Clarkson Bay to try to let the people in Clarkson Bay know. Give us some days, because we cannot allow people to be hurt so. We need to go and talk to them, because I know, and I tell a lot of people, Clarkson Bay is the main hub, the main area of scrap in Trinidad and Tobago. It comes like the headquarters, and that is why you're seeing a lot of action on that side, because Clarkson Bay, we have it as the headquarters of scrap. So you need to know that. There are some things that are taking place as we speak. It's the first thing I want to deal with. Something is taking place now to make our association look bad, and make the people in Clarkson Bay and Trinidad and Tobago look bad. And if you don't know about the Trinidad and Tobago, because it's just about to happen, it's going to take place now. As you speak, it's going to take place. You remember I told them, if they check the containers in the scanner, leaving to go to the port, it will make it easy to just see who are the crooks. But you know what they're going to do now to make us try to look bad? And Trinidad and Tobago, I want you to remember, I also tell them to make sure that what they scan going to the port. But you know what they're going to do now? There's a lot of people have a lot of containers in the port because the ship didn't ship in time. So there's hundreds of containers they have in the port. You know what they're going to do? They're taking up all these containers from the ship now to go and check it. You feel these people are them mad or something wrong with them? All the containers that in the port now, Trinidad and Tobago, they're going and pull it off the port to check it. And there's hundreds of containers. So I don't know when they will finish. You understand what I'm saying? So this is what they're trying to do to make us look bad. But God don't sleep. And that is why I continue saying it from the earlies. Because I am a man, wherever the chip falls, that is where it has to go with me. Because I am about this industry. I am about the poor people in this industry. I am about helping the poor people in this industry. I am making it easy for the poor people in this industry. And I will stay with them because I promised them to fight for them. I promise the poor people in this industry to fight at all times. So I will not give up. Wherever the situation goes, I really don't care. And what I'm saying, I'm going to make it clear to Trinidad that we have a team of lawyers, and they right now is working to see what area they could go in. Because something might be going wrong, so they need to check it out. And then we will launch our campaign on them, if that is, wherever that is concerned. So I want Trinidad and Tobago to understand, we have a team of lawyers, and they're working to make sure that any legal action we take must be proper and decent and in the law. So that is cleared up, where the taking action against the government is that. But one of our major action that we're going to take, major action, Trinidad and Tobago, I want you to understand and to listen very carefully. We had announced it in the early stage when they mentioned they want to shut down. But I'm now going to make an announcement that nothing they do more than say they open back up the industry could stop this. No meeting could stop this. No talking could stop this more than I am saying that if they say that they open back up the industry, that's the only thing could stop it. I am calling, and I'm going to call on the heads first. I am going to call on Mr. Roger. The Scrap Iron Association is calling on you and your members and your unions to give us a support in this action that we're taking. I am calling on all TSCT workers. I am calling on WASA. I am calling on the nurses. I am calling on all civil society people in Trinidad and Tobago. Seeing this attack on poor people, I am asking you all, please, with your business, I am asking you to help and come and support this action that we're going to take. This action that we're going to take is a rally from Brian Lara Stadium to straight in Port of Spain. And I am asking you all, please support us. This is an attack on poor people. And they're trying to do all the necessary things in place to make us look bad because they know what type of people in this business. So please, Trinidad and Tobago, I'm calling on all political parties also too. Please be a part of us when we go out next week, Wednesday at 9 o'clock in the morning from Brian Lara Stadium to straight into Port of Spain. I am calling on everyone to support us, all truckers, everyone who do trucking and be part of us. I would like you to be a part of this rally. All van men, the thousands of van men all over Trinidad, all in Claxon Bay, all in Laventille, all in Arima, Pinal, Debe, Barapo, Point 14, name it Siparia. I am calling on you all to come to Brian Lara Stadium next week, Wednesday. I am saying is that we will launch our operation by leading like Brian Lara Stadium straight to Port of Spain. All people who are listening, all people who agree that they have had an attack on the poor people, I'm asking you all please to come out. I am telling you all householders, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, I am asking you all, this is an attack on poor people. And before I go anymore, please, Director, play it.
Martin Niemöller was a German clergyman, a Protestant, who watched Hitler's rise to power as though he were a member of the audience. In 1944, as a prisoner in the Nazi death camp at Dachau, he wrote the following.
Wrong one. Go back over. All right. Hold the director until I collect the right video. I want to say this, and I am saying this to Trinidad and Tobago. You see, some people in Trinidad and Tobago, because they belong to a certain organization and certain political party, is wherever the chips fall, there's where they just go. if the government said this. They don't matter if the government wrong. They don't matter what it is. You all will want to agree. And you know that this industry is employ the most underprivileged kind of people. You all just see that? How you all can attack these people? These people making an effort. Not because you see people going on TTSIDA and you see people, that is every single person in this industry. Why you all want to shut down an industry that you know how this country going now? So much of murders, so much of robberies, so much of people getting killed, so much of people lost in vehicles, so much of invasion in houses. And you making this bold move to shut down an industry that where we making all the effort that these poor people will get $1 each and every day. And you want to close down this industry and make that this all these set of poor people where all your head was. When all they make that, and I want all to make this and check this out. All the lawyers that working on this Attorney General is the same Attorney General that shut down the steel mill, that advised to shut down the steel mill. And now we come back here to advise the government to shut down this industry. All you think about it. I want to know if I want to see how fast he will make a move to shut down them casinos. I want to see how fast he will shut down the casinos. Because a lot of money laundering taking place there. I want to see how fast he will make move to shut down the construction. Because a lot of corruption has taken place there. You see poor people trying to eat a food when they come, and you all want to agree with them because somebody might have take a manhole cover in front by you. And you say, no, it is. There might be a family will do that too. It could be a family. It could be a brother too. And you ain't know. Trinidad. Plate.
First, they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me.
Yeah. You know what I'm telling you? Because it's not all you. Some all you don't want to, some all you believe that they do good. But remember, you might be working somewhere, or you might be working with some company, you might be working with some other people, and nothing, because it's nothing new, you're okay with it. But remember, God doesn't sleep. God sees everything, and God knows everything. And when you think you don't want to support us because a lot of poor people who eat out of this industry, and you don't want to support because you feel because somewhere, because TSCT didn't care what they do, or the government or the police didn't care how they operate to stop this. And because you didn't care, you want them to close it. I want you to know God don't sleep. And what goes around comes around. What goes around comes around. This industry, I want you all to know and change your mind on it. Employ a lot of poor people. Some people don't like to hear that. You know why? They don't like to hear poor people because them in the middle class and rich. So they don't care about poor. And not now in Trinidad alone, and it's all over the world. Some people don't care about poor. But the poor people who just make change in the world. Poor people who just make change in countries. Poor people who just stand up for their rights. Poor people who ride on the king and the queen. It's his history. Poor people just stand up for their rights. And that is why I tell you, you make a mistake and you still have time to correct it. Or they just talk all kind of thing about the UNC. All kind of madness about the UNC. But you know what happened? When the UNC closed down this industry in 2011, all we did is to go and talk to them. Trinidad and Tobago, I want you to know this. All we do was went and speak with the UNC at that time. And they hear us because they realized that it has something that they didn't know. And they did open it back in days when we speak to them. Because they was misinformed. And Mr. Prime Minister, I think you misinformed. So we need, and I be begging you, let me not use the word begging. I am asking you all for a meeting that we could able to see this, to stop this problem. Please, Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Shortong, you is the chairman of the subcommittee, and we is asking you for a meeting to able to scratch out and straighten out the situation. This situation will be damaging for Trinidad because people all over the world watching this, you know. It's people calling me from all over. I am saying, please let us sit down and work together. I still have time to work together to straighten out this industry. This industry don't need to close down. We are done already format the proposal. We had sat down with years with you all sitting down and putting the proposal together. All this thing about 6 months and 3 months. We had done already format. Is all the stakeholders that work with you all to make sure that this industry has been straightened out. So all it have to do now is to just treat. It don't need no set of work. Why it could take 6 months to do that? So I am saying, please, let us work together to make sure that this industry open back up. And in days, it can happen. Mr. Prime Minister, I beg you to listen to us, you know. Listen, you know. I don't like to say this, you know. I don't like to say it, but I had to say this today. You see what happened in Tobago? You see what happened in Tobago? People do not like ugliness, you know, and against poor people, because there's a lot of evilness going on, and white collar crime going on, and nobody taking care of nobody trying to stop this white collar crime, you know. This white collar crime big. And I don't want to talk about it because I can't stop them talking about this white collar crime and only attacking it, but only want to attack the lowest, and only will have people supporting that. And then the people who supporting that working, you know, they might even be working in TNT and Wassa and all these places too. All they need to understand that poor people is the depend on this industry. Plenty. If all they don't know, all people all in the Caribbean, all Grenada, Antigua, and other Caribbean islands just come here every single week to able to sell the material. And when they sell the material and when they come here and they get the money, they go and buy in wholesale place to carry back to these small islands to sell. How all you can't understand what all you're doing? How all you can't understand that? All you have to do is to put in this. You listen to me? Our ship project. And we are telling the government, all the ships all over Trinidad, we will work free and remove all. Well, let me tell you something if all you don't know. See that what we're going to do? And they was coming out with a bid for contractors to bid to remove all the ships. You know what they're going to do now? I guarantee all you, in more than less than a week, they're going to pour that bid. I guarantee you they're going to pour that bill. And you know what happening? That company could be able to apply to send out scrap out of Trinidad. Because if you see in the statement that they make, if they have the people that could say that they have a company that they could send out scrap out of Trinidad, now this is where the discrimination against us is there. Because I need the lawyers and them to look at that, because other companies in Trinidad could send out scrap, you know. Yeah, if all you know that you could have a company and send out scrap out of Trinidad. You just need to apply to them to get that, and you sending out scrap. And you see where they do it? And these are the people. These are the people we need to understand. This is how they take this into a different direction. And they're making excuse that you could send, other people could send out scrap out of Trinidad. Big companies could send out scrap out of Trinidad. But we cannot, and we need to check it out. Lawyers, always check out that. I am saying all is not lost. My head is in a barrel, and I cannot allow my head to stay in a barrel. I need to push up my head. And in talking, if I say anything that you all don't like, I cannot help it. I am fighting for the poor. I am struggling for the poor. We're struggling for the poor to make sure that this industry stand up and do not crash. Because in a moment, one more thing I'm going to say again. We have so much of people paying rent. And not $5,000, must be $10,000 or $15,000. What they will do? They will allow the landlord to wait for 6 months to pay all this rent. All these people who work in this industry had to pay the bills and owing and the installment and in mortgage and all them sort of things. What do you expect them to do? What all you expect them to do? Right? I'm not going to make an attempt to tell you all, let us pay some of the workers some money or some kind of thing. I'm not going to make that attempt, because you see that attempt, that will give all you victory. And I don't intend to do that. I am saying I depend on God. And I am saying I am a man of God. And I am saying that God don't sleep. And if you all continue doing what you're doing to poor people, God will not love it. Don't mind that some evil act will take place. God do not love evil and wickedness. And I think it have time to remove your position and let us work with us. And we decide, we depending on you all to work with us. And we decided that we will go the distance to work with you all to make sure this industry don't close down. And I want to thank you for having me, for listening to me. And if the media have any questions, please. No, if the media have anything to say, ask question, please ask it now. Let me hold on a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. President. As he said, members of the media, if there are any questions. Those on Zoom, you can unmute your mics.
Good afternoon, Terry Brown Campbell from TTT News. Can I get a sense of how many people are employed in the industry, are being employed by the industry, size of the industry, number of companies? Can we get a sense of some statistics, please?
Take it.
Yes, good afternoon to all. The size of the industry technically has just below 200 registered scrap dealers. There are at least 2,000 directly employed people with these scrap dealers presently. And extension to that, there are probably 5,000 to 6,000 people again, maybe as much as 8,000 people who are the collectors on the streets that you normally would see. So we're looking at close to 8,000 people involved in the industry, both directly at this point in time. Then there are indirect people, which are the haulers, the customs brokers. So you're looking close to this industry affecting, with the closure for the next 6 months, affecting maybe in the vicinity of 8,000 people directly and about another 6,000 indirectly, because there are a lot of people provide services as well to the industry, right? Which would be the haulers, the brokers, the people who supply food to plenty of these places, because a lot of people depend on cooking for these 6,000 to 8,000 people who pass by daily. So there are a lot of people going to be affected in this thing. So that will give you an idea of the statistics involved. Now, a further statistic that would need to be looked at is the fact that this industry, as Mr. Bailey clearly said earlier, $260 million annually. Closure for 6 months would mean $130 million thereabouts. Is the government, or do they have a plan in place to supplement this loss of income? Because this income really, this figure, only about 5 to 10% really goes in the hands of scrap dealers. The rest trickles into lower society in Trinidad. So is the government have anything in place to supplement this $130 million that is expected to be lost in this next 6 months.
Okay.
Apart from that, right, that ripple effect is disastrous to our treasury and our U.S. income earning potential. Do they understand what is going to happen? That is the question. Thank you.
I have another question for Mr. Ferguson, please, regarding the suggestions that was made to government before the actual shutdown while you all were in consultation. What was suggested to help alleviate the situation with the stealing and so on? What had been suggested and not implemented?
No, I'll answer that as well. I personally went to the cabinet subcommittee meeting. We had proposed quite a few things because you know what they did? They put the association out in front and asked us to regulate the industry for ourselves. Because why? They had no understanding of the industry. And they wanted to learn from us in a short period of time. And they weren't able to learn, so they decided to have a panacea. Is this a solution to banning scrap iron? It doesn't make sense. Right? The suggestions were that we are able to identify everybody collecting scrap. We decided to have van collectors identification, where you'll see a van with a sticker on it. We did that so the citizens will know a scrap collector from a thief. We propose that, that we continue to ask for that 3-month ban on copper for 2 reasons. Stop the ability for people to steal copper to sell it. And if they thought that they could have done that, we had another thing put in place. Ask for direct inspection of every copper container after the ban to make sure that no stolen copper was even entering the containers to be exported. So we had things clearly put in place. So it is not that the Scrap Dealers Association sit idly and weren't suggesting what was supposed to be done. The scrap dealers are in the business, and some of us were in the business for at least 20 years. We know the industry inside out. We understand what causes people to thief. Sometimes when the prices go up because it's a fluctuating market, people thief. Because they see opportunity, and they are not actually scrap dealers. They are people of opportunity. So we did put things in place for people who have the opportunity to thief, to stop thieving. We asked for vigilance in scrapyards from the police service, because the police service, by the law, supposed to visit scrapyards and check their books just as they do with bars. They have not been doing their job at any point in time, because I have not heard a scrap dealer saying they're getting visits. So we have been checking all the time, and we have recommended what needs to be done. So we did put a lot of recommendations in place.
And Kenny, I just want them to know, one of the biggest things that we recommended is that containers going to all port shall be scanned. So what they're going to do now is what we recommended. So if they're trying to make me look bad, foolish and that, because it's on record that we recommend that you all scan any containers with scrap coming into the ports and them.
Right. Apart from that, in the meeting, the committee identified that it was not just copper being stolen, it had other items. So we had created a list, what we call special items of interest. And this list was to check that any manhole covers coming into scrapyards be properly documented, because there will be manhole covers that are legally obtained from deconstruction of sites and stuff like that. So there will be gates, there will be private hydrants and stuff like that. But all these special items of interest which we identified and created a list for, pumps and valves that we suspect will be stolen from Heritage Petroleum and other places, Wassa and such. We made these specific items of interest. So we had recommended that we had a list of specific items of interest, that if it was seen in any scrapyard, scrapyards need to have proper documentation of where these things came from. So we had put everything in place to stop the theft in this country, but without any help from the government so far, since our one meeting with them, nothing has been done. And this one meeting, another thing has to be said. In the past and previous government, this industry has been operating. It's a fairly new industry to Trinidad. And it has been operating without any checks and balances. No committee from no government was put in place to understand this industry. So we have people in government who do not understand the industry and want to regulate it. When we have people with the experience, like myself, who are not even involved in the industry anymore, could give a lending hand to the government to show them what is the best steps forward. And this they need to realize. There are people with the relevant knowledge and experience. Because we don't have, because the scrap iron, everybody figure it's people from the end of the road or the bottom of society dealing with this. There are educated and serious business people involved in this as well. And people who keep educating themselves in this. There are people who are engineers in this business. There are people who are accountants in this business. Right? If the government figure they close down the industry to figure out they want to regularize because they figure it's $260 million passing through and they get no tax from it. Okay, fine. Consult with an expert in the industry who understands accounting of the industry. Because I'll tell you, they can't bring in nobody that don't know about it. You know? So they need to have people who are involved. All right. Thank you.
My last question, could you just let me know when the meeting was?
All right, we get back onto you on that date. We have it here, so everything. But anybody else with any questions?
The meeting was July 18th.
Okay. But you have anything again?
Now, one more thing. Apart from the monetary value, 6 months ban equates to 10,000 tons of scrap iron by 6 months. 60,000 tons of scrap iron to pile up in the country. That is an environmental hazard like we used to have before. Where you see scrap in drains and rivers and all about in yards pile up, creating a nuisance and more burden now on the public health system. Because you'll get neighbors calling and saying, people stuck in scrap iron because they have, well, obviously they have nowhere else to put it because it is shipping. So we have another situation that will incur in the future. We have 60,000 tons of scrap to deal with. That is 3,000 20 or 40 foot containers you're talking about of scrap scattered all over the country, pile up. Are we a forward thinking people? I guess not. Because Trinidad, there are solutions. We are intelligent. We could solve these problems without a shutdown of the industry. We don't need to shut down the industry. As the word they say, we can multitask. We can have the industry running and find this. We have the solutions proposed. We can get it done. So think about it, please. Thank you.
Are there any other questions, members of the media? No? All right, so as usual, thank you for your support of TTSIDA. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you there on our motorcade coming up soon. And be sure to check out our Facebook page, our Instagram, YouTube, TikTok pages to stay connected on everything TTSIDA. Thank you.